I have just had the first of 5 conversations with Reddy, who is a new dear friend of mine that I first started relating with. You'll understand once you listen why I don't say connecting with. Yesterday on Twitter. And then we had a 9-minute racket conversation that I will link to so that you can hear that one. And when we started to talk yesterday, I just went, oh, this is the person I want to have on the podcast. So I asked, and luckily, he's a person who says yes, because he's ready to go. And you'll see why he's ready to go too. We have been talking a lot about connecting, connection, relating, and relationships. We've talked about the edge of, of of how to be in life, I think, and a whole lot of other really, really juicy stuff. So I've greatly enjoyed these 2 hours that I've spent with him, and I'm guessing and hoping that you will too. So dive in, have fun. Hi,
Hello.
nice,
So
good to
what's
see
what's
you.
what's in your cup? What's in your cup right now?
In my cup is hot water, a piece of cinnamon bark, um, a piece, 3 little leaves of mint, dried mint leaves from the garden, actually, and maybe a piece of dried lemon peel.
Oh, I love eating the peel of an orange. It's just something I just love. Like every time I eat an orange, I'm like digging into the peel more than I'm digging into the
Eh,
actual fruit inside. I don't know. It's just something I just love. I like that bitterness of oranges and bitter lemon. Have you heard of bitter lemon? It's almost as big as an orange, but it's bitter like a lemon.
Nope. I think
Oh,
that's a new one for me.
yeah, it's a very strange fruit. I haven't been able to get it even in India. It's like something just, it's just on in the rural areas near the villages. And so I've just been looking around. I just can't find it in any of the big stores and cities. So, but
You'll
it's
have to
just one of
find
those
a
things.
rural area
Yeah.
to source it
Yes.
from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do I call you Reddy or do I call you Ritesh?
Well, ready is what I'm just like tripping on because it's just one of those things that it gets me ready as well. Like every time someone says ready, I'm like, yeah. It gets me all
Perfect.
pumped up. And I was curious about this whole pseudonymous thing as well. When I started off, there's this thing about even before Web3 took off in the last few months, but even before that, I was curious about this whole idea of a pseudonymous economy. And I was curious about how people have identities. Like in the past on the internet, in the times of ICQ, it was just like, you could be completely anonymous. You were just a string of letters and numbers. And then now, once Facebook came in, everyone had their real names and real identities, whatever real means. And so I was just curious about what happens when people have pseudonymous identities, which are
So,
not
what's this
really.
pseudonymous? It's like pseudonym.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Mm. So,
I
what
think it
have
was Balaji
you?
who made this famous.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
he
So,
tweeted
so,
about it for a bit.
so, what insights have you gotten around that, if
I
any?
like the idea. Yeah, actually, I like the idea of being, there's always this whole idea of being mysterious. It just adds this element like, who is this guy and who is this person? So you're curious, it draws people in. It also pushes some people away because then they don't know who you are. They don't have a backstory. They don't have something to relate with. But I'm also curious about how people draw conclusions on the basis of, your name, your identity, your culture, your religion, your backstory, where you're from, where you are in right now. All of these build a certain picture, which is something that people need as adults, right? Because it's so hard to trust each other without having that backstory to everything. And this is something that I keep thinking about in terms of a playground, right? Like when you see kids in the playground, they just walk up to each other and they're saying, like, okay, hey, you want to play with me? Right? It's just as simple as that. Nobody's asking, hey, so where did you come from? What's your mom and
How
dad
long have you been
doing?
here?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So like it's something I did once on a Zoom call. Like we had a bunch of people on a Zoom call, and I said, "Hey, so what we're gonna do is we're not gonna introduce ourselves, but we're gonna introduce each other, despite the fact that you have no idea who the other person is, because it's a room full of strangers." And so we actually had people introducing each other with something completely made up, entirely made up, and it was so much more fun. So I'm really enjoying this idea.
And that thing of introducing each other with entirely made up stories or names or personas also can be extremely free. Like, wow. And I mean, you can see that in kids who, there's kids in school who don't really fare well, or for that matter, if they fare well, but I'm the goofy one, or I'm the sports person, or
Yes.
whatever. And then sometimes if you have a shift where you move, you go to a new school, all of a sudden I'm free to kind of step into a new persona, step into a new way of being me in the world, because a lot of I mean, especially I think a lot of the kids who don't do very well in school, not because of them, are the ones who the teachers and the school staff know with bunny
Mm.
ears that they're the messy ones. The ones who can't sit still, the ones who'll never shut up, the ones who, because they come to school, they look at them and go, oh no, it's him again. And what can you do? Well, you just fall into it because, that's what you're expected to do. So that's the path of least resistance, right?
Yeah.
So it is really interesting, this thing about who we are and how we show up and how it's allowed for me to do that. What is allowed for me and how can I play with that?
Yeah.
You know?
It's something, it's I've been thinking about it like for the last week or so. I've been experimenting with the idea of toning myself down from if I'm on this, energy scale of 1 to 10. Like I'm usually always in the upper levels of 7 plus, right? Like I'm just like shouting off the rooftops and just like, hey, let's do this, let's do that. Like I'm super animated all the time, right? And if I'm not up there, I just crash right down to zero, right? And I just like completely turn off. Like I'm one of those people who can be absolutely comfortable in complete pin drop silence. Like I'd be absolutely comfortable if I have no one around to talk to, like absolutely nothing, no conversation. Like I can stay like a week, a month or so with absolute silence. I don't find it uncomfortable. It's not unnerving. I'm very comfortable with myself. But I realized that anywhere between 1 to 7, 1 to 5, like 5 is a baseline, right? But like I'm never at my baseline. I'm always like on the surface. So I've been trying this out. And, as part of this ultra speaking experience where we, just using the medium of speech to explore different facets of ourselves, right? Through speaking, through allowing the inner self to just reveal itself through just words without thinking of it as public speaking or learning to speak better. And over there, they suggested this exercise that what if you had to scale your energy down in just speech, right? But I took it a step further and I dragged it back into every aspect of my life. I've been trying to speak softer. I've been moving. I've been literally actually moving slower.
Been there, done that.
Oh, wow. How does it feel? Like, are you naturally a higher level individual or a lower level individual?
I am I am naturally, I'm not sure I'm quite as bouncy as you, but not far
Yeah.
off, I would say. Um and I'm quick, I have
Mm,
quick
mm,
brain, quick grasp, uh, quick writes, quick getting things. I'm quick and I, talk fast, etc. And then when I started to really, really know myself and um, like having come 10 years in on that journey, that's a journey that started some 20 plus years ago. So 10 years ago, I started to discover and notice that I was slowing down. So I speak slower. I listen much, much better because I'm not working out what to say when you're speaking, but you're speaking. And then you're going to notice that in these conversations, I look up to one of the sides, and that means I'm kind of, what wants to come. So I'm much more silence and I move slower. I walk slower. And I do a lot, or no, I don't do a lot, but I do coaching. And if people are here in my area, we do coach walks. So I live next to a recreational area, so we do walks in nature, which is just magnificent because
Wow.
it's hard to stay stuck mentally if you're moving physically.
Yes,
But
yes.
starting that journey, I started to train as a coach um, in 2011. I was a fast walker. So we were walking fast, it's like, this is great because here you're getting sort of mental, assistant coaching and you're getting a physical exercise at the same time, right?
Mm.
And then I started to, as I started to slow down, I would let the client's pace be what set the pace, which often meant walking fast is, because you need to be effective and productive and make the most of this hour of walking, right? And for the past, I don't know, 5 years or so, I'm the one setting the pace and I go slow.
Nice.
And I have clients at the start, they're like 3 feet ahead of me and they're like walking and I'm just chill, and I don't say anything. I just
Mhm.
don't fall in step with them.
Mm.
We do slow because I think that in and of itself, in the society we live in, that in and of itself is Tankespjärn. Wait, she's not maximizing the physical benefits that we can get from this hour of walking. And I'm going, actually, we are because we need slow movements much more than what we're getting.
Mm.
So it's really, really good for you to do slow walking. Um, so it's been,
Yeah.
for me, it's been a very, very interesting like journey to kind of observe myself as I slow down to the speed of life, which is what I, you know, look at it. Um,
I like that. The speed of life, like that's such a like what is the speed of life? It's such a it's an incredible thing, right? It's just something that just struck me. Like we look at things and like a waterfall is really fast, a typhoon, a cyclone is really fast, right? But majority of the times, nature's got this gentle, lilting pace, right? Streams and rivers are flowing at a gentle pace. Leaves are unfolding, falling down at a gentle pace. Animals are only fast when they're running for their lives or running to hunt and take another one's life. The rest of the time, they're just lounging,
chill.
chilling. Yeah.
Yep. And look at the tectonic plates. They are
Yeah.
not fast,
Oh.
you know? So there's earth time. Um, that is something completely different than
Yeah.
kind of the speed of modern man. It's like we are doing something really, really that I think is, it's detrimental in a lot of ways. I think, we see a lot of people who aren't well, who aren't, it's like you're kind of chasing away from yourself in a way,
Yeah.
instead of just slow down, maybe even stop, you know, breathe, close your eyes, just be there.
It's almost like it's harder for people to do that, right? And you slow down, stay there. It's like a sense of panic kicks in. which is really strange because like you speed up when you're in a state of panic. And by that logic, you should actually calm down when you slow down, right? But it turns like it's topsy turvy. Like the moment people start slowing down, there's a sense of, oh my God, what's happening? Why are things moving so slow? Why have we stopped? We've stopped. We've
Mm.
stopped. Something must be wrong.
Wrong.
Gosh, that association.
So, how did you learn to be in the state of zero, in the silent, in being comfortable with being just with you? Is that something that you've
Ah,
always had with you, or has it evolved?
I think it started very early because from my earliest memories, my memories go back to me being like this introverted kid who was very extroverted when he met individuals. But I've always, like, I think growing up, I had this insane delusions of grandeur. And I was just like, I'm fucking better than God. Like, like I had this complete megalomaniac belief that, I was just like you said, right? I was quick in this, quick in that, quick in this, quick in everything else. And I was like, why is everyone else so slow around me? Are they dumb? They must be dumb. Okay, in that case, I'm God. It's just like, I just went from one with this complete jump of a conclusion. And when you're actually feeling that quickness, when you're feeling like everyone's behind you and there's nowhere to go, and like you're all alone up front, that you just get comfortable being alone, right? There's a sense of it's lonely at the top sort of thing. I won't say I was at the top. I was actually a bottom ender. Like I think I actually was always at the back of the classroom. I was the worst student. And I didn't want to study. It was just complete refusal to abide by school rules, by
Yes.
classroom rules. I was just that rebel kid. And even by that logic, I had to be alone. Like there were a few bunch of other rebels who I would hang out with, but then the number was always lesser than the mainstream, right? It's an entire space. And eventually I jumped into drugs at a very early age. And by virtue of that, I started spending more time alone as well, right? So I would, and even if I was with people, once I was high, I was in my own head. I was lost in my own head or out of my own head, whichever way you look at it. But I was always having the sense that, there's me, there's the world, there's the universe. And so it was me, 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 me. And everyone else around me was slotted as part of the world, right? And anything that was outside of this world in terms of experiences, mind altering, mood altering experiences, was out of this world. So it was just these three stages of engagement. And that one stage of engagement that was always there with me was me, myself, my thoughts, my beliefs. And I started getting more comfortable spending time there. At some point, I'd even left home very early. I think I left when I was like 16. And then I was living alone. I had no clue where I was. I was just on the run. I was hitchhiking across the country and, completely going off the reservation. I was just living crazy. And I didn't have friends, or I would just be making friends on the fly. And then, the next week before I knew it, I would be in a new city, new place, new complete environment where I had to make new friends. Right. So the only constant that remained in my life was me. So I just
Mm.
got comfortable being with myself. And even today, I'm my own best friend. Like it's people look at it as selfish, and I definitely agree. I'm very selfish, and I think that's the first step towards being selfless. So I think like that's something that I have going for me, and I'm happy with it. And so I like being in the state where there's me, there's my thoughts, there's my ideas, and there's my actions, and there's my speech, what I'm saying out to the world. And I'm equally interested. Like it sounds very hard for people to believe, or for me to sometimes believe that this is possible. How can a person who's so full of himself be open to other individuals, to their thoughts, their speech, their actions, and having this interaction between these two? But I really think it's possible, and that's what I'm trying to do. That's why I'm constantly trying to make conversations with people online, offline. I'm just one of those people who could strike a conversation with a random stranger in the middle of nowhere And to the extent they'd be like, all right, can we stop talking now? I'll be like, all right. Yeah, that's me.
Mm. So I have this. I mean, if you live in India, you know, you come from a very much more collective society than I do over here in Sweden. You know, whereas like individualism in Sweden is like on this world values scale, we are, we are up in the corner. You know, we are so odd. Um, but for me, this whole like the individual and the collective, I think that we're thinking about that in a skewed way where for me, give me a strong individual any day, someone who knows themselves, their strengths and their weaknesses, who's not afraid of himself, who's not afraid to say, it was me, I did it, whether it be good or bad, you know?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Give me one of those because that's what makes the collective stronger, you know? Because I'm not the purpose of being a strong, with bunny ears again, call it whatever you want, but knowing myself and kind of that's kind of whole maybe is a better
Mm,
word.
mm,
I don't know.
yeah.
You know, the purpose of that is not for me, right? It's not so that I can step on everybody else who's weaker than me or below me or whatever. It's like the purpose of that is so that that means that when I come into contact with you or my community here around me or wherever I am the best me I can be for the us.
Yes. That's so beautiful. Like I've always likened this to the idea of animals in the wild, right? Like when we look at the alpha, like this new definition of the alpha of the pack being this bully, this dominant creature who's just constantly like sitting like this king and everyone else is serving him. But it's amusing because like the stronger the alpha is, the higher the chances of that pack survival, right? Because the value of that one individual who's strong enough to reach his or her maximum potential means you're raising the bar of that entire community, right? You're raising the strength of the entire community because it's just like a law of averages, right? If everyone's going to be at the same level and a few stick out, and you by virtue of you sticking out, the entire average of that community is going to raise, right? And I feel like it's exactly like you said, it's each individual's purpose, if I could give it that word, to just reach one's maximum potential. Like, what is my maximum potential? Like, it doesn't have to be like I have to be up there, have to be up here, like the modern scoring system, right? Like, what's your grade? Where are you at? What's your status? How much are you earning? What's it's not that, but it's whatever I am gifted with, whatever I'm born with, whatever talents I have, whatever I've discovered, whatever I found, whatever I've built for myself and the best of that. I could be a carpenter, but I could be the best of that. I could be a CEO, I could be the best of that. It doesn't matter. Both start with C, but you know, it's just the fact that we're both damn good at what we do. Right. And that's such an incredible feeling because like it gives me so much joy to be amazing at what I do. Like I have this incredible sense of pride saying, hey, I make the best furniture in this part of town. Right. And it's even digging deeper, it's not the outcome. It's not whether other people agree that I'm making the best furniture. Is that when I'm making the furniture, I'm completely, the whole that you mentioned, right? I'm so completely at peace in harmony with myself, with the way I'm working, with my movements, with my complete obsession with the task at hand, which can dive into the whole mindfulness thing. You don't have to sit on a cushion and meditate on something to feel mindful. I could be making a stool and feel as mindful as a monk sitting in the Himalayas, right? It's that sense of diving into oneself and finding the best, like just allowing the best version of myself to just spring forth effortlessly, not by virtue of competition. Like, oh damn it, you're trying to get better than me. All right, let's see what I'm going to do. Like that's a very you know, not a very comfortable way of doing it because I'm constantly watching over my back, right? Like I'm constantly like, oh my god, someone's reaching, someone's trying to be a better carpenter than me. Gosh, I have to do something better, right? I just feel like competition doesn't bring out the best in people. Like there's this constant belief that if you want to bring out the best in yourself, you have to compete. You have to put yourself in the market. You have to be in the marketplace. You have to compete with each other. Like that's when you bring out the best in yourself. Uh-uh, don't think so.
No, I agree with you. It's kind of scary how much we agree with each other. It's like, how can this be when we have known each other for all of 24 hours? You know, right? It's
Yeah.
like yesterday around noon or something, we started talking on a Twitter thread, and here we are. Um, but
Oh, yeah.
it's you speak to one of my favorite words is a word coined by Nyla Merchant. She speaks about the onlyness that only you have, that thing that only you bring to the table. And I just love that word uh, because it doesn't, it's like it doesn't have to be unique, you know? But it is that thing. It does have to, isn't the right word, but that which I bring to the table. Mm, only me can bring that. I'm the only one who can bring me to the table. Nobody else can. I can be
Yeah.
invited in by others. I can be held by others, right? But if I don't come, I'm not there.
I feel like this connects so beautifully with, the reason why people are like, oh, I'm coming out of the closet, right? Like this is just used in a very limited sense, right? Like, okay, I've been homosexual, I've been gay, and like this is me, and I want to now come out of the closet. So it's kind of limited to a certain specter of people like saying, okay, I've been repressed by society, by my community, by my family, and now I want to come out. If we were to take this into a broader aspect, almost everyone is in that closet, right? Because we have been put there. Like I've personally rebelled against the school system like ever since I can remember. Like my earliest days, I would like, you know, I'd be that kid who's constantly rebelling every single day, like without it was such a mess, right? Like constantly. And it's almost at some point it was like, okay, you're just a rebel without a cause, you're just this, just this spoiled adolescent brat who just wants to, unleash terror on the world. And like, in a sense, maybe I was enjoying that energy most definitely. But at the core, there was a reason. Like I didn't like the fact that, okay, the whole idea of a school, everyone wears the same clothes, everyone's trying to fit into that same environment, everyone's trying to get the same grades, everyone's learning the same thing at the same level, right? And okay, you would have a few aberrants here and there, people who would jump a few classes or few grades and who would be given a little more preference this way, that way. But I didn't see that sense of, like you said, people coming into that onlyness, right? It was the opposite. Everyone's being pushed into this oneness of the ideal student, the ideal citizen, this ideal individual that society wants to put out as, each nation state has their own ideal individual. And, they just want us to be made as clones in that regard. So I was constantly like, my greatest fear was that I would lose my onlyness constantly. Like I was like so afraid that if I stopped rebelling, even for an instant,
Hmm.
I would become one of the whole, right? One of many, one like many, and I would lose my onlyness. And that scared me to no extent. And it's so amusing looking back in hindsight of all the crazy, insane, scary things I did without a second thought, probably all because I was so afraid that if I didn't do these, my other option was to just be like the rest of it, like just like everyone. Such a
So,
scary thought.
would you say that, I mean, did that take a lot of effort? This, it's like, because in a sense, you're in your very own hamster wheel then, right?
Yeah.
I need to
Yes.
be in this onlyness hamster wheel, rebel, rebel,
Yes.
rebel, 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 rebel. And you're just
Yes.
in a hamster wheel. It's just most of the other people are in a very different energy type hamster wheel, but it's still a hamster wheel, right? Where
Yes.
where this where fear based. It sounds as if it's
Yes.
like, yes, where fear is the thing. And I
Yes.
haven't thought about this before, but I wonder if is that, there can probably be different types of hamster wheels, different like outputs and the reasons why I'm in this one and you're in that one, etc. But I wonder if fear isn't one of the driving factors. You should have a house and a 9 to 5 work, and you need to have a kid, and you need to have a car and you know, yada, 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 yada. And if I don't, I'm not good enough. And,
Yeah.
and so is it fear?
Yeah.
Is that the way to step out of it? It's like, I'm not afraid of this.
I totally agree. Like I didn't take this easy way out. Like you said, I jumped into the other hamster wheel, moving the opposite direction. Right?
Yeah.
It's just that I wasn't just, and I
Mm,
was probably spinning faster because it's like the hedonic treadmill, and I was like an addict, and like everything is 100 times faster, 100 times more hustle, 100 times more mania, 100 times more
mm,
depressive moods. Like everything is 100x. And and I was going in the opposite direction as well,
mm,
right? To make things worse of sorts. And you're right, because like today when I look at anything I do, I'm constantly thinking of it in terms of, this whole the F's I call it, like, it's like, am I being driven out of fear? Right? Am I doing this that I'm so scared that if I don't do this, something wrong is gonna happen, something bad's gonna happen? Am I doing this for fame? Right? Because, okay, do I just want to be known? I want to be this super smart kid or this super, rebellious kid. I'm just doing this because I want everyone to look at me and say, wow, that guy's crazy. Like, who could have done that? Right? Am I doing this for fame? Am I doing this for fortune? Oh, how much money can I make out of this? Like, okay, right? You're making your first dollar over the internet. Okay, did I make the first $1 million? Am I going to make a billion? Am I going to make a trillion this year? Like, there's that constant wheel of fortune. And then there's fun, right? So that's where am I right now. So that's my F right now. I'm just like, okay, right now, can we have fun? And fun is always better together, right? So that's one way I've chosen and used to get out of that. The moment I went on that hamster wheel, I became alone because, on that hamster wheel, you just at the end of it, like my worst rock bottom of addiction was at one point of time, I was probably half the size I'm now, and I looked like 80. My eyeballs were just like sticking out of my socket, and I was just like all starved and skinny like a skeleton. So I probably looked like an alien at that time, but none of that was as bad as the fact that I was completely alone. I couldn't relate with another human being. I was afraid. I was paranoid. I was scared. I was angry. Like I would walk on the street and people would, avoid me. Like, there's this whole sense like, who the hell wants to hang with that, with an addict, right? And I was like at the worst level of it. I wasn't just one of those highly functional users who you probably don't know that they're using. And so the complete loneliness of it was what reminded me of the value of this connectedness that you're speaking of, right? This belonging to a community, belonging to a harmonious whole, rather than just being this one self, individual self. And I think that was the most potent moment when I realized that it's not, there's no I. There is no I. I mean, like, I am awesome. I am incredible. I am individual. I'm unique and all of that. But the I is connected in some way. Like, I may not be the same as another person, but I am as deeply connected to that individual as I'm deeply connected to myself. And together, we're all as connected to this world, this environment, this planet, and everything else, to animals, to plants, all of us. When we just, it's just a question of, am I aware of that connection or am I not?
I like the fear, fame, fortune, fun scale. That's a good kind of check in.
Mm,
Oh, to kind of find the root or the intention, the driving
yeah,
force, right?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. And it's
so
an easy real time check.
yeah,
Like,
precisely. So that's what I'm wondering. How do you use that? Like
mhm,
practically in your life, how do you use that? Do you wake up in the morning going, or
yeah,
how do you do that?
I actually do in a way. Like the first thing I do when I wake up is I get out, I go to the roof, I face the sun, and like I'm completely, soaking in the sun because like that's just like my wake up charging thing. I mean, like that's one thing. I'm like, just recently I was asking everyone on Twitter. I'm like, okay, all you people in the northern hemisphere, all you people away from the equator, all of the people in higher latitudes, altitudes, how are you going to manage the winter, right? Like you're not going to face the sun, you're not going to see the sun. If you're in Scandinavian country, probably for the next 6 months or so, right? And I've just taken for granted. I mean, like I'm in a tropical country. I don't even know why on earth we living in the tropics even have to wear clothes. We don't even have to wear clothes. We can just be roaming around naked all day long because that's how we were designed and made to be. And I feel like that's something I need to wake up doing, right? I wake up, just get this whole load of sunlight, and then I move. I need to do something to move every part of my body. And here's where it begins. I'm like, okay, why am I getting sunlight? Okay, is it going to give me fame? No. Fortune? No. Okay. Fun? Kind of it tingles when, you feel a hot heat on your skin, so it tingles. Yeah, there's a little bit of fun. And, is there any fear? Maybe, yes, there is a little bit of fear in the sense that if I don't do this, maybe my moods won't be as good. As I'm getting older, I realize I can be a little more cranky, I can be a little more irritable. And so I have to check on that as well, right? So I'm thinking, okay, so there's an element of fear, there's an element of fun. There's
Mm,
not much of, fame or fortune involved in this. So, that's just like I can do a quick check-in over there. So I know there's a little bit of fear, there's a little bit of fun. Now here's the thing to remember, that the ratio of fear to fun, like that's where the fun, that's where, because anytime you do anything fun, there's always an element of fear in it, right? And that's what excites, that's what brings in that excitement. Like all kids love to be scared. Have you noticed
yeah,
this? Like kids
yeah,
just,
yeah,
you just like sneak up and then go boom, and they're like, like they're
yeah,
shocked, and then they're
yeah.
like giggling, laughing, they're falling over because it was so much fun. So I feel like that's one thing. Like I can keep the fear there. It doesn't have to traumatize me. In fact, it might even excite me to the extent that, oh, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. So, and I do the same thing with the movement. Like, right, if I'm moving, okay, how much fun am I having? I start playing my favorite tracks and I'm just like tripping to the music, I'm dancing, I'm moving. And at the same time, I'm like, okay, if I don't do this, I would just probably become one of those rigid old men who walks around like this all day, like, oh, like, the spine is stuck, body, the hips don't move, right? And hips don't lie. So I'm like, yeah, I got to groove, I got to move. And so again, there's a little bit of fear that if I don't do this stuff, I'm going to turn into one of those, you know, people who just don't move, who can't move. But if I also do it for fun, and you can tell, right, if you're having fun or not. Everyone can tell when they're having fun or not. So at the end of it, I'm like sweating buckets. I'm exhilarated. I have this incredible high, and it's barely 15 minutes into my
Yeah.
waking day. And started off the day with no thought of fame or fortune, a little bit of fear, a lot of fun, and it's a great start to the day.
That is great to hear. And I think that element of fear, that's that tension. That's for me, it's the edge, right?
Oh, that edge. Yes.
That's
Oh,
the
no, I got
edge.
it.
Yeah, precisely.
Yes.
That's the edge. And I was reading uh there's a book by a man called Jack Morgan called The Erotic Mind, which speaks about, my erotic, relationship to me and others, etc. And he says the same thing about, he speaks a lot about shame in it, you know, because it's the same thing there, you know,
mm, mm.
that little bit of, oh, we're being a little bit naughty here. We're not really supposed to, or can we do it in the open, or, whatever. That edge can be really, really enlivening and invigorating, right? If it's
Yes.
too much, bam, it
Yeah.
knocks you down. You won't be able to move. You won't be able to do anything. So
Yeah.
it can't be too much, but it's not necessarily a life without it that we want because it does, it gets the bubbles going, right? Um, so I'm all for that. And I think it is. I mean, there's a reason. I mean, we speak about the liminal place or
Mhm,
the liminal space, the
mhm,
the
mhm.
the boundaries, say forest and field,
Yeah.
or ocean and beach. Along along the edge there, you have twice as much, at least, life, because
Yeah.
you have life both from the one and the other, and then they're commingling, and stuff happens.
Yeah.
Um, so the edges are interesting. It just, you need to make sure that it's not too much edge, because then you will
Mm,
cut yourself. You will hurt yourself in ways that
yeah.
are not good for you.
Yeah.
Um, that's a good reminder.
Yeah. I love how this came back to the edge. I think it's like, because yesterday I was reading on the side and I was like, okay, this edge, we have to talk about the edge. We have to talk about the edge. And then I completely forgot all about it. And I was like, just like somewhere at the end of the conversation, like, oh, this is it. We reached where we wanted to be. Because I've spent my entire life on that edge. Like I've just been like constantly pushing, boundaries, constantly on that edge, constantly desperate. At that time, it was complete desperation to stay there. I didn't want to be in this side. I didn't want to be at that side. And, just constantly wanting to be on the edge of every space, right? There was this, is like you said, it is just like you will get cut. And, if you're on the edge, you will get cut. And it's just incredible because the other aspect I realized later on is that I was definitely hurting myself, no doubt, but I was also hurting everyone else around me, right? Everyone whose lives I touched, right? And it's incredible because I don't realize how much, because we only believe to an extent, or at least I definitely believe that the people whose lives I'm affecting are the ones I'm affecting directly, right? But then the more you draw inwards, you realize how powerful your influence is on the world in so many ways that you probably didn't think possible. And I was like, as I withdrew deeper inside, I started realizing how much of an influence I have, how much an individual's just mere presence in a space makes such a difference, right? Especially in a country like India growing up. Like we have almost 2 billion people here, right? There's no
Just
dearth of
incredible.
human beings over here. Yeah, and just think of the variety. There's just so many people, so many different kinds of people, and every few hundred kilometers is like a different culture, a different religion, a different kind of people, a different language, a different cuisine. Everything is so different, uniquely different. And because there's so many people, like it's easy, and I completely had taken for granted that the 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 connection to another live human being was something I'd forgotten or had taken for granted. I was like, there's always like, there's always people around. Like you don't need to, if I needed to find people, I could you know, just find people just like that. Because it was harder to get away from people.
I
It was
know.
harder
I
for me to
know.
get away from people. And but now I realize, it's like I can be in a room full of people, still be completely disconnected. I can be out in the wild, alone in the jungle, and still be deeply connected to every single plum, tree, squirrel, everything. And I'm right now in that space, that liminal space. I live in a city, but I'm in this whole COVID situation. I've been so isolated, and I've never missed a single moment of connectedness with the world. I haven't traveled outside, just made a few trips out now and then, but haven't been traveling around the city. I haven't been actually going out and meeting people. And yet, like, I haven't felt disconnected. Like, I've been living with, I have a dozen cats, and that's a lot.
You have a
With-
dozen cats?
yes, yes.
Whoa. I have one. So
Oh,
you're
boy.
the crazy cat man.
Yes, I'm crazy cat, man. Completely. 100%. Oh man, like they have been. In fact, one of the reasons for me to think about play was, when I was just staying alone and looking at all this chaos and death happening all around me. And I look at the cats and they're like the least bit bothered, right? They couldn't care less. They
Mm.
don't know the stats that this many people are dying of COVID across the world. Oh my God, what are we doing? Well, mankind is doomed. Oh my God, let's run to Mars. Nope. They're just playing, they're just relaxing, they're just rolling on the ground, wrestling with each other, playing silly games, and chasing each other around the place. And that's when it struck me that, hey, if I really, I don't need to do anything more than this, and I would still be living a completely fruitful life, especially in this modern, the newest obsession these days seems to be that it's not just making fortune, but I need to live a life of purpose and meaning, right? And it's almost like I need to find purpose and meaning, and I'm just been completely ignoring that aspect and even laughing at it, mocking it, because I'm like, hey, the real purpose and meaning comes in only when we connect as a community, right? And if someone in that community needs me for a certain task, a need, a purpose, something of that, so that's when I fulfill my purpose towards the community. But if I'm trying to find my purpose by myself, it, it doesn't make sense, because my purpose for what? For who? To satisfy myself? Like, it doesn't matter. I mean, like, I just need to survive, right? So, in that sense, as an individual, my only goal, my only purpose in life is to survive. If I'm part of a community, if I'm part of a larger whole, again, our purpose, our meaning is to survive. And towards that goal, what can I do to contribute towards the survival of the group and community? Right. And in most cultures, it's as simple as just spawning progeny, right? Okay, you and me hook up and then we spawn a few brats and then, oh, we've done our bit for the community. Oh, look, we added numbers to the tribe. So there you go. We did our bit, right? It's as simple as that. But, it's like that's a base layer, but maybe I can play with something more fun, more, interesting. And that's not somewhere I need to just stay with if I'm curious to explore more beyond just fulfilling that base level purpose and meaning, which says, hey, increase the rate of survival of your tribe by increasing numbers. And I for one, want to rise beyond that level, but at the same time, I don't want to come up with my own unique identity as purpose, as a sense of purpose or meaning that I want to strive towards. I'm just going to keep it open as of now. Let's see what comes up. If at some point of time there's a certain need for an individual like me, I'll show up
Mm.
and I'll do what needs to be done. Until then, I'm not actively searching for purpose and meaning in my life.
Oh, this is so interesting. I did a I did a creative morning session May of last year or June of last year, 2020, on purpose. Uh which was very, very fun. And I was just riffing it basically. But I do have a very strong sense of the purpose of me or the meaning of my life that came to me, let's say it must be 11, 12, 13 years ago, something like that, when I woke up in the middle of the night and
Wow.
just bam. I went downstairs, I lit a candle, lit a piece of paper and pen, and I was just writing. And for me, it boils down to I want to make a positive imprint. So you could flip that and say, I want to be of service to my community, right? Because that's what it is. And that has, it's like I had a perfectly good life before that. I've had a perfectly good life after that. And it's with me. It's very much a sense of how I am in the world, how I show up on Twitter or social media, or how I am when I'm interacting with coach clients or my kids, or, it's like, it's very with me, not in a you have to, but how can I
Yeah.
rather?
Yeah.
Um, and it can be, it's like you're checking on the 4 Fs. It's like
Mm.
it's a way to check in. Am I contributing now? Is this a value? So I don't share a lot of, oh my God, the world is falling apart and COVID is this bad and that thing and this happened and oh, how horrible this is. I don't spread that on. I don't share that. Enough people do that. I don't also have to add because that's not how I believe that I can make a positive imprint. Um, and like you say, someday maybe this one doesn't feel right at all. Okay. It's like I'm not attached to it. Uh, and it's like if it comes to you, let it come to you. If it doesn't come to you, don't for crying out loud go searching for it. Oh my God. If anything, be open to find it, right? Because there's a difference between being a searcher and finder.
Yeah.
Um, but if you go searching for it, then you're efforting the heck out of this thing that I don't think is one to be
Yeah.
efforted, right? It's like, no, that's not how you do this. And it's like it's interesting to talk about this in like in the area of the cats because I wrote a piece about Pop the cat, my cat, the other year, how he is the king of self-care. He
Yes.
is a full-fledged master at
Yes.
self-care. They do
Yes.
the pandiculation. They wake up and they go,
Yes.
ooh, and they just stretch. Their entire body just goes,
Yes.
and then they cuddle up again, you
Yeah.
know? Or they find something to play, or they find the one stream of sunshine in the floor and they just lay out there maximizing the lovely heat they can get from it. They are masters and they are very, very good role models, I would say.
Yes.
Uh,
I
so
love that. I have to read that piece. I'm going to go dig that
I'll
one
send
up.
it to you. I'll send it to you.
Yes, please.
Uh,
That is so cool.
So it's interesting. I guess I don't think cats necessarily come to the world thinking, "Oh, I need to find my purpose in life." You know, kind of the purpose in life is to live life. And I don't
Yeah.
mean survive. I think
Yeah.
we are above and beyond that. And I actually think Pop the cat is above and beyond that too,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
not surviving, he's
Yeah.
thriving, he's loving life, right? It's like that's what we're supposed to do,
Yeah.
live,
Yeah.
truly live.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love how we brought pandiculation because I think that is such an incredible because I've been observing cat for a long time now, right? And I've been obsessed with the idea of movement as to why, like one of the aspects of, adults avoiding play is because the physical bodies can't keep up with it at all anymore, right? Like even elite sportsmen and athletes are specialists. A runner is only going to run, even runners like a marathon runner is only going to run long distance, and Usain Bolt is only going to run 100 meters. right? You flip the roles and they're like, "Bleh," and like all out of shape completely, right? And a swimmer can't play basketball, and a basketball player can't, can't do a pole vault. Like, whereas if you look at animals, like look at my cats, especially, like if I scare them, they just suddenly bolt out blue, they get
Yeah,
up
they
the
jump
tree on something.
2
Yeah.
meters in the air into another
Yes.
room and twist in the air, landing, watching you. And you
Yeah.
go, how? How is that possible?
Yeah.
Right? From nothing to being, you
Yes.
know, they're amazing.
Oh, I that's what I want. Like it's like it's a little lusty, it's a lot lusty, I guess, because I want that freedom of movement. I want that ease. It's more about the ease. It's not the that incredible athletic ability that I'm obsessed about. It's just the ease. Like they're not gonna warm up. Like even if I meet an old athlete, if I say, "Hey, would you like run for me or do something and show me what you did back when you were younger?" They'll be like, "Oh, this is going to take a few months of training. This is going to take a few weeks of prep, and this is going to take a few hours of warm up before I can do this." But you do that to a cat, and before you know it, they're just like incredible. And like some of my cats, like when they're pregnant, they got like 5 little kittens in the belly, and they're still climbing up trees. How is that possible? Like you ask a bodybuilder or weightlifter to lift something, and he's going to be like, "All right, I need absolute silence in the crowd. Everyone, give me a moment," and like yeah, smelling salts and get all ready, and like, "Okay, everyone." Calm down, no noises. Now I get to be in the zone. Like, it takes so much effort. Like, that's the effort. That's what you're talking about,
That's
right?
the
Effort for
efforting.
everything.
Yes.
It's not just the effort of lifting the weight, it's the effort of getting ready to lift the weight. Like incredible. But this mother of 5 little kittens, carrying them inside of her, she just hears a sound and she's up the tree in a jiffy, like all of a sudden. So imagine that if I ask a weightlifter, can you carry that? Okay, you lifted that? Awesome. Now carry that and climb up a tree. She's going to be like, that's, but it's not that I'm, aiming for this sort of cat-like reflexes, but I want that ease. I definitely think I want that ease when I'm like way past my, my twilight years and I'm just on the edge of, heading towards death. I still want to be able to move. I still want to be able to do the things that I'd like to do. Squat down on the ground, roll around a little bit. Essentially, do those things that the cat just does lazily, and the whole thing. Cats don't warm up. Animals don't warm up, but they do pandiculate and they do that 100 times a day. That every time, every single muscle in their body
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
stretches, right? And I feel like that's those literal moments of, how do I say, slightest bit of effort makes a world of difference, right? And that's how, in my head, I've just been constantly thinking of, I think of it as good, bad, and ugly energy. It's like if I'm really struggling, I call that ugly energy. If I'm working hard, I call that bad energy. And if I'm just like lazily doing stuff or playing around with things and they get done, I call that good energy, right? And so I'm like always very like, okay, I need to do this. Okay, cool. So if I can do it just by playing the fool and getting things done, awesome. Like that's good energy. Great job. Excellent. I feel good about it. If I had to work a little bit harder, I'll be like, okay,
Yeah.
I had to put a little bit of work in that. So it's kind of bad energy, but it's not really ugly. But if I had to like burn the midnight oil, stay up, scratch my head and think, oh my God, we have to do this. How do we fix this? Now I'm bordering on that space. And like I just took Pareto's principle and I just turned that into my own ratio. So in my life, I can spend 80% of the time with good energy. Like that's how it could be my life, it could be my day. 80% of it has to be good energy. 18% of it could be bad energy, right? If I really need to get things done, oh my God, like, taxes need to be paid and things like
Yeah.
that. That's
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Okay. I could give 18% of my day to that. 2%, no more than 2% a day goes to ugly energy. Like if I have an accident and like, something needs to happen, I need to take care of this on a war footing, I need to handle this now, it needs to be done now with all my resources maximized
Mhm.
towards that one singular goal. Okay. But like that shouldn't be more than 2% of my day or my week or my month or my life in general. So like this is, I've just given myself this crazy scale that I constantly keep playing with. Anything, if I'm writing a book, okay, 80% of the time I can be having fun. 18% of the time can be boring and terrible, like editing and stuff like that. 2% of the time I could be like, really, oh my God, I need to get this done before the next 35 minutes, or I'm not going to get this done. That's okay. Like, that's a ratio I've given myself. And I feel like that's a nice space. I know when I'm doing how good I'm doing in life. Like, when someone asks you, how are you doing? I actually think about this. How am I doing? I mean, like, this energy scale is what I think of before saying, I'm good and
You're good, bad, or
bad,
ugly.
ugly.
I'm really ugly today.
Yeah.
That's great though, because I think this is one of the things. I don't know. I've written a number of pieces on this efforting, from the sweat of our brow. It's just no. It's like
Yeah.
we are not built for this. No life is built for that. I would say not even ant life and bee life is built for that, even though maybe they don't agree with me. But it's like, it is not, we're not supposed to do ugly energy, you know? And you look around, there's probably a lot of people who have flipped those numbers. So it's 2% good,
Yes.
18% same number, 18% of the bad, and then it's 80% ugly energy. And I'm going, is it a wonder that people aren't well?
Uh,
Right? I really like that. That's a very, very practical and helpful, and I think easily relatable to concept.
yeah.
Um, And it's fun that because pandiculation is a new word for me. I learned this word 6 weeks ago or something. Um, when I was doing a sensing yoga class, there's a Swedish lady who has invented some type of sensing yoga, which is lovely, which is basically, it's so fun to do a class with her because she says, now we're doing this. But if you need to be lying down, you lie down. If you need to sit, you sit. If you can't do it this way, don't do it that way. Listen to your body. So she's like the most unorthodox teacher in a way. It's not you have to do precisely this because this is how the legs is supposed to move towards the arm, etc. She says, listen to your body. Constantly listen to your body. I can tell you the rough outlines, and then you find how does your body want to move here, which is just so lovely. But she speaks a lot about pandiculation.
Yeah.
And it made me realize that I've actually been pandiculating in the mornings. Somewhere in my second marriage, I stopped with this. And I don't know when. Because so for the first 35, maybe 40 years of my life, I would wake up in the morning, I would go, and I would just, and I would be just doing that. And I would do it with my voice too. I would do this high pitched, squeaky thing.
Wow.
And I just realized the other week that I have lost that somewhere along. So I've started to do that in the mornings when I wake up. I go, and just do it. So I'm actively bringing pandiculation into my life, and I notice Pop the cat doing it, like you say,
Yeah.
all the time. And
All the
they're
time.
so funny because he can lie on the sofa for 5 hours sleeping, but every time I look at him, he's flipped around. Right? So he moves. And every time, if I actually catch him while he's flipping around, I can see him doing this thing. And then he
Yes.
settles into a new position and he's there for
Yes.
20 minutes and then he does this thing again. So he's like,
Yeah.
even in their sleep,
Yeah.
they know the body needs to be in
Yeah.
this lovely mood, just keeping it all supple in a sense,
Yes.
right?
That's the word. Wow. I love
Yeah.
that word. Uh,
Mm.
I actually spent 24 hours monitoring how often they do it. And I think it's close to 15 minutes. Every 15 minutes, they move. in some way or the other. Like it just could be like it could be that usual stretch of theirs.
Yep.
It could be just like like sleeping and then rolling over. It could be curling up into a ball, but they're constantly at least like they're just even if they're asleep, like you said,
Yes.
even in their sleep, the wisdom of the body takes over and just says, okay, we're gonna do this now, right? And it's just like effortless. It's not even like it's like it's happening completely on autopilot. There's no that's the word. There's no conscious effort. They're not trying to stay supple, right?
No.
There's no
No.
effort there. They're not trying. Okay, I need to do this, right? Because, like, again, you're lucky you have beautiful yoga teacher because most people now think of it like you have to contort yourself into certain positions. You have to reach this ideal positional, you know, space. You need to reach that ideal flexibility level. You need to reach that ideal agility level. Like nobody is just allowing their body to settle into what is ideal for the body because the body already knows, right? The mind doesn't need to tell the body what the body needs to do, right? Ah,
And it's, I mean, it's interesting. I have a friend, Matthew, who's also one of the people doing this season together with other friend Inva. He speaks a lot about um he knows a lot about the nervous system and stuff like that and the vagus nerve and all of these things and the polyvagal theory, etc. But I think it was him saying this thing about proprioception, about knowing where our body is and where it ends. I can have a piece of fruit in my hand or an egg with a sharp knife and I'm cutting it. I'm not cutting through my hand. I know precisely where the egg stops and my hand starts when it is time to, if I am attuned. And that attunement is not the mind.
yeah.
The mind, the brain gets its information from this system throughout our body, which is just a gazillion times more rich with information than the brain. It's just the hookup central and not
Yeah.
even for everything because there's a lot of signals that don't. It's like, why would we bother going all the way up to the head for this thing? We just do it, right? So just this thinking of our entire system as this intelligent system that is comes from well-being. There's innate well-being when we are born. And the entire system is constantly working at getting us to the most well-being we can in the moment. Regardless if you're sick, regardless if you have problems anywhere, the body is always trying to put you back to the best level you can be at given your circumstances, right? Uh, which is just such a lovely way to think about it. And it just makes me go because I've been one of those talking heads for a lot of my life. It's like it ended here and there were 2 feet. It's like, and then I kind of discovered there's a body in between. It's like, wow. Um, but it's like that's all of a sudden there's that wholeness piece. It's like there's so much more available to me because I've kind of discovered that here's this thing, and it's like it's me. It's like
Yeah.
it's great fun. You can do a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. It's the playground, right? It's a complete
It
playground in
is the
itself. Like the
playground.
body is a playground. Like what can I
Yeah.
do with it? What can I and do is not just function, but it's the fun part of the function, right? Because like it's almost like we just think of the body as a functional unit. Okay, can it help me drive a car? All right, cool. And the car can take me from point A to point B. Awesome. All right, can it take me up the escalator, boss's office, so I can get a job? All right, great, great job, great body, right? Can it help me play a game so that I can impress women and get laid? Okay, cool, awesome, right? And it's constantly on like so body can okay, you tell me I can have sex with this body and I can feel incredible in my mind. Okay, cool, I'm going to use it, right? It's almost like we're constantly using the body, right? At some point, and it's just about function, 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 function. But that very same activities can be fun, like going up the elevator could be like, cool. I feel this you can experience farming the same thing rather than just being obsessed with the function of the body, right? Like right now, I'm just standing. Like I flipped my chair away and I just kept this standing desk, right? And I got these. Sure, I got these under my feet, and that was like little trampolines, So I'm literally standing on them right now, and I'm like I can actually like just like bouncing on them, my weight keeps shifting, and this is just and those little projectiles keep just like a foot massage of sorts, and I just feel so comfortable. Like I feel like that sense of movement. Otherwise, like if I'm stuck in a chair, I start feeling rigid, and then slowly I can start feeling the tension in my neck, my shoulders, my back, and then I'm just like, oh damn it, now I need a day to unwind from that. But this is like the easiest hack ever because like I'm standing, so I all the bad posture that comes from sitting in a chair or in a bad chair, and then I can go in, that just goes into a complete different level. And now I can stand, but at the same time, from standing on hard wood or hard floor, that hurts my body too, because we weren't meant to stand on hard objects, right? We were meant to go on in the wild, on soft earth, on plants, on anything that was soft. They had some give, it had some play, but not this hard surfaces that we are built on. And now by adding this layer of softness, I have this sense of, feeling that there's a sense of being welcomed by the earth, right? Because I'm falling in and out like there's this bounciness. So all of this is just something that I probably put in a lot of effort into thinking, right? I put a lot of effort in thinking. But it's just a bunch of little things that I found on Amazon. I got it over, and now it's been like my staple thing. Like I never get in front of my desk without those under my feet. And I don't have a chair, never use a chair. If I have to sit, then I squat
The
on my
squats.
haunches because I'm just trying to rewild myself. And I'm one of those people who's not flexible at all. Right. So I had to like slowly build that flexibility and just to the state where I can rest in that position, right? I don't want to like have some sort of a perfectly light body, and I don't want to reach extreme levels of agility and flexibility. But that word that you use, suppleness, I want that because I find that as I grow older, I'm growing more rigid, my hips don't move, my back doesn't move. Like if you look at a young child walking, there's complete swagger, right? They're just like, the whole body is moving. There's not a single joint that isn't moving when a child walks. It's just like everything from the toe right up to the neck is completely moving in just something as simple as walking. Right. And me, I'm like 42, a 42-year-old man. If I were to watch a 42-year-old man walk, it'd be like, right.
Yep. Yep.
There's this, oh my God, this like they're just so rigid and they're just like, yeah, it's just like so I'm just doing everything I can within that good energy space, without moving into the bad energy space or the ugly energy space, to maintain the suppleness of a child, which is asking for a lot. But I feel like as long as I stay within the good energy space, even if I get like, just a bare minimum, that's still a lot better than what would happen if I will just
If
let
you
my body
weren't. Mhm.
get stuck.
It's so lovely to hear you say this because I've been I've been I've been in barefoot shoes since 2014. Um and have shifted how I walk. I started shifting that already before I did Mensende therapy or whatever you call it, and kind of, started to look at that. And so I've shifted how I walk. And with and today I basically don't fit into any of my old shoes because my feet have, they expand and they just won't contort into this. ugh, so it's like, I don't do that anymore. But it's also so interesting to notice what happens when I'm in barefoot shoes, which have thin soles, or barefoot. I go barefoot a lot. I go barefoot to the church hall where I have my choir practice, and my colleagues there in the choir just look at me going, she's just, but it's like, yeah, I am. No problem. I'll be that one. Right. But it's so interesting to see the difference between how it is to be me in the world when I feel the ground that I'm walking on. Because if you're in very like any type modern shoe, you don't feel the ground. You don't feel that here's a little pebble or here's a little crack
Mm,
in the sidewalk or, now I'm stepping onto the grass because it kind of feels the same. But if you're barefoot or you're in barefoot shoes, it's like I feel it. So
yeah.
if I'm if I'm in that, the problem is I was in Paris with my mom and my aunt and my kids 2018, I think, 17, something like that. And we were walking all day on flat, hard
Ah,
surfaces. Yeah. We are not supposed to. So that's what we're not supposed to. We
yes.
are made for walking. We are made for moving. Absolutely. Right. Whether it be walking or shorter, like running. But we're not made for flat, hard, man made surfaces. That's the trick. So that's where you really have to start to dance around on the streets of Paris because otherwise, my back just went boom. No,
uh,
sorry, don't do this to
uh,
me. I won't. I won't. Um, but it is so fascinating because even though I said I was a talking head before with feet, I wasn't really connected to the feet other than they were that functionality aspect,
ooh,
making sure that my mind was transported around.
yeah.
Right? It's like now I am a full body with feet, and the feet are as sensitive as your hands. They are, they have an enormous amount of the bone and muscle in the body. There's like, it's just, feet are just amazing. And we kind of shut them, it's like we shut them away, turn them off.
Yeah.
So that if people go barefoot, they say, oh, it hurts. Yeah, because the nerves are so turned
Waking up.
off that any sensation is interpreted as pain, even
Yeah.
though it can be the softest gravel. It's
Yeah.
like it doesn't actually hurt. You need to reprogram that signal because there's no proper pain here. Your system has just been misaligned in a sense. But it's so lovely to feel, to be in connection with where am I? Oh,
I, I've been like, and for me, it's like even if I'm barefoot around my place, to find a patch of just earth where I can, sink into that. Like I can walk barefoot around, but like this, everything is hard ground. Like where do I find, you know, soil, just
soil.
the earth, right, to sink into? And the other thing that I've been playing around with is walking backwards.
Yeah.
I spend most of my time walking backwards. It's just like rewires my entire brain. It's almost like I started doing it because I've got like really bad knees, and so I started doing it to like ease the muscles which are worked when I'm walking forward. So I would start walking backward just to ease the pain, and I realized that it's also very invigorating in the mind, right? Like I feel like this cognitive boost, like when I walk backwards, because like the mind is challenged, the body is challenged. Like, oh, this is something we haven't done before. Like it's new, right? And then I started like walking on all fours, and I started doing this, like, just trying to imitate my cats. And it was like, okay, if you guys can walk on all fours, I can do one. And I start walking on all fours. I start chasing them. And man, it is so exhausting to walk on all fours. Like you said, it's just like, if you haven't been if you haven't been barefoot for a long time, then the first time you get barefoot, you're going to be like, huh, it's a shock to the system, right? And the same way, so it's like every now and then I just constantly just jump down, just walk on all fours. Sometimes it's just like from my bed to to, just to go outside, I'm like, okay, I'm going to walk on all fours. I was like, oh, it could just be like 10 steps. It could be like 20 steps. But the fact that I'm doing this is like a shocker to my body, it's a shocker to my brain. It's like, oh, something new just happened. Like, right? And that, if like, that's the part of the play that we're missing out. Because, like, as children, the play just kicks in, that unpredictability of play, like what just happened, like this is completely new, all of that, right? That constant rattling of changes, like, okay, today we're playing in this part of the woods, and tomorrow we're going to be playing there, and today I'm playing on two legs, and tomorrow I'm going to be playing on four. Today I'm going to climb this tree, and tomorrow I'm going to climb that tree. It's a different kind of tree, so I'm going to have to use different kind of skills. Like, there's no certainty, there's no predictability in the uncertainty of play. And while it seems a little contrived that I'm trying to bring about unpredictability in my life, I think it's worth giving it a shot every now and then, right? Like, just to wake up my system and say, hey, don't get stuck in this, in the sense of procedural rigidity. Like, physically, I have this positional rigidity, and in terms of just living my life, there's this procedural rigidity. Like, I wake up, I have my coffee, I write, I do this. So over time, like, that becomes some kind of a procedural rigidity, and I feel like there's a certain level of uh, discipline or a central conviction of something that life kind of revolves around. And I've just like made it as simple as sunrise and sunset, right? These are two things that I keep a constant in my life. When the sun rises, I need to be up to say hello. When the sun sets, I need to be up there on my roof and saying goodbye, right? And it's just as simple as that. I'm like, hey, this is as simple as keeping these two things constant. Besides that, sometimes my sleep may move a little bit this way, that way. My eating habits may move a little bit this way, that way. Everything may just move a little, but these are two things that I try to anchor my life around. Like, just two simple, continuous constants of my life and I can do this anywhere in the world. I could be anywhere in the world and I could still do these same constants. So I try to find those, some constants around which I can anchor my life, and the rest is open to unpredictability and chaos to quite a large extent.
And I would say it's also um I can see where you're coming from when you say it might be a bit contrived to kind of introduce the unpredictability of it. But I also think that it is kind of a way to deprogram or reprogram ourselves, right? So that in 10 years, maybe you don't need to do that because you are so attuned to the intuitive sense of, like the cat that moves and pendiculates every 15 minutes in their sleep,
Yeah.
because you have reawakened,
Mhm.
that sense of, okay, here I am and I need to be in this type of flow. Um, and I was, this is, this is something that I am playing around with it in ways where I'm deliberately trying to listen and ask myself, all of me, what that what I need, what would nourish me in the moment, etc. Because I'm one of those people who, I did burpees every day for like 1,000 days or something
Wow.
before I realized there's a reason why my back says, ah, because burpees every day for me is not what I need.
Yeah.
I need to listen to my body. Now and again, burpees, yes. Now and again, don't you go close to those burpees because that's not what your body needs right now. So I have had to like deprogram myself from this very rigid, I do this thing because I'm great at it. Like, give me a challenge and I'll do it every day for as long as it takes. He's like, I do that. But I'm playing around with listening to what is it that I need in the moment? What would serve me right now? And not this. the productive function chasing,
Yeah.
efficient, it's like by the sweat of our brow infused mind or culture that we live in, but rather, oh no, yeah, I need to move right now, or
Yeah.
some water, or nah, let's just go out into the sun, or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, so, and that was like, I read a funny book by, I think his name is Dan Here or something. It's called Embodiment. He speaks about asking yourself what you want to eat, etc.
Mm.
It's a couple of years ago, and I went to the cupboard and I opened it, and I had some type of snack in there. I think dried apple rings that I had, or chocolate or something. And I asked myself, and I was playing around with, if my body moved forward, it meant yes. If my body moved backward, it meant no.
Oh,
And I
interesting.
was asking, uh, I was asking myself, because I wanted a piece of chocolate. I think that's what it was. And I was asking, is this something you need, or is this just because you crave it? And my body reacted so clearly, telling me, this is just a craving, my friend. You don't need this at all. And I started laughing at myself because it was this type of dialogue with a part of myself that I've been so disconnected from. But when I actually asked and kind of invited it onto the scene, it said, "Here I am. I'm ready to play with you now." It was just great. I was laughing. I shut the cupboard and I went back to the sofa and did whatever I was doing. Um,
All love that. It's just like we, our bodies are such incredibly intelligent beings. Like it's almost I- like you said, like it's like my body is. I don't know why. Like you got this idea that the brain is the pedestal. Like we just put this up on pedestal and like, oh my god, like it's up there and like this decides what is happening with everything within. The more you think about it, like even the body itself, right? There's like a million bacteria in here, and they're like, it's sometimes like, am I my body, or am I the parasite to the bacteria rather than the bacteria being parasites to my body? Because like there's just so many more of them. Like, how am I so confident that this body belongs to me? Right. And it's such hubris to think like, I mean, I enjoy this body, but to think that this body is mine, like the sense of ownership, right, is so incredibly amusing to me at times. I'm just like, okay, let me think of it like a timeshare. I got this body, and before it runs out, I'm gonna make the most of this, right? I mean, like I can move this, I can move that. Oh wow, look at what it's got. Like, I'm just exploring the property and like, wow, it's got this and it's got that. Okay, look, this can do this can do that. And if I'm not gonna make explore that to its maximum potential, like, am I not missing out on the beauty of residing in this magnificent property? Like,
yeah,
okay, like everyone would imagine this house like in Miami, you have this incredible property, it's like spread over acres, it's got 10 different suites, it's got like 4 different heated swimming pools, and if you're just going to stay cooped up in one room, sniffing coke all day long, like you're missing out on the fun of living in a mansion, right? And like that's how I feel with my body. If I'm like constantly obsessed with like this intellectual stimulation that I get from, like constantly cognitively masturbating on the internet, reading books, and like everything is up here, up here, up here. And it's just me, 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 right? And it's the moment I start exploring all of this, there's so much, like you said before, the richness of inputs, right? Like the nervous inputs that come from the fingers, from the feet, from the sensation of the body, right? There's so much happening in the, like the moment I start doing that, I just realize how rich my world is. Like not just this world, but my world, the world I inhabit in this body, right? And then that richness, celebrating that richness, enjoying, embracing that richness just makes me feel so much more happier, so much more full of potential. And now when I stroll into the community, I have all that extra potential, all that extra energy, all that extra enthusiasm to share with everyone around me. So it's like, I'm just like, thank you, buddy. Like, it's almost my body's my buddy, right? It's like my best buddy.
Yeah. And honoring it for that which it gives. Uh, you know, is because it is an amazing thing. And it's like you say, I read a lot, so I do a lot of that cognitive masturbation that you spoke about. It's like I like that too.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
just, it's two. I like that also. There's a book by Merlin Sheldrake that's called Entangled Life. I think it might be Entangled World, but one of the two. And he is an expert on fungi. So it's a book about fungi and lichen and bacteria also, but mostly fungi and mycelial networks and this and that and the other thing. And reading that book, it is Tankespjärn, 10x mm, at least. But it made me go, just like you said, it's like, shit, I am not alive on account of me. They are keeping me alive. I would be so dead if it wasn't for all of these other creatures that share, like you say, this body. If it's on the skin, you know, there's lots of life on my skin that I don't see that keeps it healthy. We know about the gut biome and, all of that, but I don't think people really truly understand that without them, it's like they are the ones that are feeding us. I can put food in my mouth and chew it, and it can go down, and I can poop it out. If there were no my gut biome doing the work, I wouldn't get any nourishment whatsoever from that. It's like it is such an intricate system, and it just made me go, I'm not so sure we're the smart ones actually, because fungi, my God, they have been on this planet for a gazillion times longer than we have.
Yeah.
And there's not a tree that doesn't live because of the interaction with fungi. There's not a plant. There's not a human. There's not an animal. It's like, shit, they are everywhere. If there's to be a ruler of the universe, it sure is not man. It is fungi. Hands down, it's fungi.
And that's why we're playing, because we're trying to be fun guys.
Bingo. You got it. That's true. I hadn't thought of that. And it's I have a friend of mine, Inma, she wrote the other day that we should not speak about mycelial networks. We should speak about mycelial net place,
Mm,
PLAY.
yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, because it is that good energy in it,
Yes.
right? It's like
Yes.
it's this thing. It's like, oh, I feel like
Yeah.
sending up a fruiting buddy over here today. And they just do. And it's just, wow. Yeah. Life is quite amazing.
I just, just like the more the connections we create or we relate, it's almost like we don't really create connections, right? We just start relating to the connections we didn't know existed, right? And
It's
when we
always
start
already
relating,
there. Yeah.
yeah, right? Because, like you said, like, how is it that we just know each other for like a day and we just feel like we've known each other forever? Because the connection was there. It's just we started relating, right? It's not like we made this connection. Like we can look at it that way, like, oh, we connected and we started this and we related and then we are doing this, right? But it's like, it's a little naive to think of it that way because, like, really deep down, everything's just been flowing and connecting and just like, oh, now I see it. It's just more like, now I see it. Now I'm aware of it. Now I feel it. Now I relate. Now I connect. Right? Because it's just been there. It's just like our barefoot adventure. Like the connection was always there. There's no endings were always there. It's just waking up now. Sometimes it could be a rude awakening. Sometimes it could be a pleasant awakening. We just don't know. But then the fact that the awakening ranks above whether it's pleasant or whether it's, unpleasant.
Well, I like how you say, speaking about relating to that, because I had a I had a huge insight when it comes to connection when I did Super Coach Academy in 2014 in the US, and we had a connection weekend in New York as the second of 4 week long weekends. And Michael Neal, who runs the show, kind of says, or the training, he says, connection is already there. We speak about creating connection. He says, no, 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 no. It's there. You know? And I just went, oh man. So all of those feelings of being so alone, it is like you say, it is because I'm not relating to what actually is always and already there. So, and I've framed that in different ways. I've never used the word relate to describe that, but that's actually a perfect word to show what it is that I do. It's like, yes, there is connection. And now we're starting to relate to one another. We're starting to interact actively with one another in ways that, it's like the sky's the limit.
I like using the word relate. I like using the word relating because, like, it's like relating is a verb, relate is like present continuous, right? I relate with you, right? It's right now something I'm doing. And I hate the word relationship simply because it just feels like it's something that's done for, right? Like it feels like ship is something that takes someone from point A to point B. And that's
Mm.
such a finite journey. It says, like, okay, I'm just going to take you from point A to point B, and then you jump in here, you jump off there, right? End of story. Like
Mm.
it feels so finite, but when I say relate, it's present continuous. I haven't stated an end to it, and I haven't even said that it's something that can end. When I say I'm relating, it's something I'm doing. I denote action. But the moment I use the word in my head, relationship feels like it's a noun. It's something that's just there. It's not something that requires my input, right? Because relate and relating are action oriented words. They require me to be doing something, to be connecting, to be relating. Whereas relationship just feels like I'm in it. I don't have to do anything. The ship's going to take me where it's going to go. And I kind of use it as an excuse to relinquish responsibility, right? And like, I'm like, well, I'm here. I mean, like, what else do you want me to do? Right? There's this sense that it's so easy that I'm kind of nitpicking here, but I feel like language is such a burden at times because it's like a cognitive load. It's like I'm constantly thinking of what I have to say and do. And like, it's like I'm trying to explain what I feel for you through words, which is such a limitation. But since we have grown up, unlike my cats who can relate with each other just by like they're constantly touching each other, they're constantly loving each other. Recently, my cat lost one of my cats lost her kitten. Right, she was bit by a rat and she died. Right, and the other one, like immediately after that, the mother was like, God, she was just like, oh, damn. And she was like stuck there. She didn't leave the dead body. She was just around it constantly. She refused to move. And then I eventually buried the body in my garden, which is what I usually have a little ritual around death. After burying the animal, I actually invite friends over and we dance. We play music and we dance on the grave, literally as a sign of celebration of the
Mm,
animal's life
mm,
and the joy that he or she shared with us as a gift for us, right? And our relationship. And now I'm just like, hey, so this is our farewell to you. So bye bye. And, we're not going to mourn your death, but we're going to celebrate your life, right?
mm.
And so we did all that ritual. And then the mother eventually, immediately went back now to the other kitten. So she had two of them and she had actually stolen the other kitten from another mother, another kitten mother. And so they do all of these things. So anyway, she had two kittens, and the one that died, she was so distraught. But the moment she realized that this is over, it's finite, she's not going to come back, she's, you know,
It's gone.
gone.
Mm,
She took all of that and showered that affection on the other cat, right? And it's constant licking, touching, cuddling, holding, staying around her, this constant sense of contact and proximity, right? And it's almost like this in the human world is seen like a bug, right? It's like you're
yeah.
stalking me, you're making me uncomfortable. Why are you in my space right now? Don't you think this is enough? Like, okay, we can cuddle later, but this is like 24/7. What the fuck? Right? There's this sense. And then we want poetry. And then we're like, okay, you need to write me something. You need to show me how much I mean to you. Right. But I feel like, again, this brings us back to the whole body thing that I feel like there's so much the body can communicate. There's so much the body can, express. Right. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why we love dancing so much. Right. I also think that's one of the reasons we love sex so much. It's not really the orgasm, which is just the cherry on the cake. It's the whole cake. It's the contact that we are
Mm,
starved of. Like I'm amazed at the amount of contact. It doesn't have to be male, female, doesn't have to be father, mother, brother. None of those interactions, none of those roles that we play in a community matter to the animals at all. It's just contact, security, warmth, affection, all of that, expressing that through contact, right? It's just constantly like I could see a little 2-month-old kitten sitting with a 20-month-old, a tomcat who's otherwise surly and just sitting in a corner like that, wow, like, just like scowling at the world, and right? And then this little cat goes up here and this snuggles next to him. This cat's like, "What? What are you doing?" Right? And then he just warms. It just takes a few seconds, and then he's like, "All right, cool, you can cuddle." And we're just sitting there. It's just that warmth exchange of, and I feel like if we miss out on that, well, that's when we have to resort to language. We need to resort to how well we can express to each other in languages. This brings me back to the whole relating. Am I relating through words? Am I relating to contact? Just proximity, just being in the same space with another human. And I think in this whole lockdown situation, that's one of the things that has struck people as a very powerful thing, right? Just why are we so upset if we have the internet and if we can connect with people on world? Why do we still crave the sight of another human being, the feeling of another human being in the
mm,
same space? Right now, we're on this call for a while now, but we're not literally in the same space because I can feel your vibes to a certain extent. But that physical proximity is the one thing that I don't feel. There's a tactile sense of contact, which I don't feel. There's the olfactory sense of smell. I can't smell in the room. Like there's so many factors. Like even if we're not aware that we can smell each other, our bodies are
mm,
probably already communicating that to each other without
mm.
us. Like you said, it doesn't have to go up here,
No.
but it's still, we're recognizing each other in the room without, you know, this part being aware of that recognition to a certain extent. And even though as humans we don't really, we've lost that ability to have this strong olfactory sense of connectedness, of the uniqueness, the onlyness of the individual, right? Like otherwise, like every time I travel, I would leave a sweaty t-shirt of mine with my dog, right? And he would just like hold it and stay there, and he's like, nobody's going to take this away from me until this guy comes back, right? I'm holding it to it. And like, that is so powerful. But I feel it's and all we have is words today. Sometimes it makes me feel like,
It's not all we have, but it might be the thing that we resort to because it's easier and it's more tangible. Because I would say that we might be blind to the importance of the olfactory sense of smell. But smell is the number one trigger of memories. So you smell something and then you go, oh, my grandma made cakes with that spice. Right. So smell is actually, if you want to trigger memory, smell is the number one agent to
hmm,
trigger memories, right? So our bodies haven't forgotten about the
yeah,
importance of the
yes,
olfactory system, but kind of cognitive modern man culture has,
mm,
right? Especially with I don't I don't know. I stopped using perfume detergents like 25 years ago, and since then I've just cut away everything that has perfume in it. It's like I don't want it's like, oh, no, I don't want it to smell. I don't want to use, dishwashing liquid that smells like apples or lemon or anything. It's like, I don't want that because I want to smell what is here. You
yeah,
know, I want to smell what is actually here, not what I'm kind of layering on top to mask. So,
yeah,
this obsession today with scented candles and these fragrance
mm,
sticks that everybody
yeah,
has everywhere. They smell lovely. That's not it. But man, they smell a lot. It's strong for someone like me who doesn't have anything like that. It is really overwhelming because my system has gotten so sensitive because I'm removing that higher baseline of like background noise, background smells. So
yeah,
my baseline is and it like so s- I would say smell is really, really important. And I wanted to say when it comes to relationship, thank you for that piece of Tankespjärn. Um I have not thought about the word relationship that way. But that was Tankespjärn through and through. Um because for me, I love words. I'm very fond of words. I'm very attuned to the beauty that words can convey if they're put together in a specific way and how it can my entire body can just go, "Oh no," if I read something that's badly written, it's like, "Oh no." So I'm a very word loving person and I'm very deliberate. I try to be very deliberate and conscious about the words that I use. So I don't use must and should a lot. I avoid right and wrong, good or bad, unless I really mean it. Right? It's like I I use the word and a lot more than I use the word but for the same reason, right? So I'm very conscious, but I have not thought about relationship as this transactional vehicle in a way,
yeah.
which just, hmm, that one's gonna be here in the background and percolate. That will probably pop up in a blog or two, um, because that's interesting. And like I've been single for 5 years, and I've not been dating or anything until the spring when I got on Badoo, which is quite popular here in Europe. I've understood. And I'm having some absolutely fascinating conversations. You know, it's just deep, meaningful, very open, very vulnerable, and just, I love it. It's the best. And let's say, where was I going with this? What was I saying before? Where was I going?
Maybe
Mm,
something to do with relationships.
so what was it? That one slipped away. But it's like the, oh yeah, there it came.
Ah, you got it.
I got it. It came back. They usually do. Um, I have seen through the interactions that I've had, and I've done a number of walk and talks with people because that's kind of an easy way. It's not as contrived as sitting down and having dinner or can be, but you're walking and it's easier in a sense. But I've picked up on two like main aspects about me. It is words do matter to me. If there's somebody who isn't able to like spark my cognitive, my intellectual, you know, uh, circuits, not interested. If there's no physical spark, if there's nothing happening in a physical, either because of smell or just it doesn't really, or it just doesn't feel like it. It's like then any romantic entanglement is just off the table, right? But if both are there, that's possible. It's also
Yeah,
possible to just go with friendship, right?
yeah,
And that's possible if there's a great like cognitive and there's no physical attraction. That's friendship too. But if it's just one or the other, I'm just not interested. And, neither for friendship or, it's like it's like I could do a friendship with someone who sparks my mind, but not the other. It's like it doesn't. I need the both for
yeah,
me to
yeah,
really like
yeah.
want to relate. Um, I think.
There's this, there's this spark of attraction which can't be firing in just one aspect, right? Because like you said, we are a whole, right? It's not just the mind thinking, it's not just the body acting. It's and the more you're aware of this, the more united you are, and then the more you desire stimulation and satisfaction in both these realms, right? And then anything else feels like a half-assed effort, even if it's not the fault of the individual because they are not aware. But the fact is that you are aware. So you are aware of what you're missing out,
Yeah.
even if the other is not aware of what they're not offering or not bringing to the table. And it comes right back to where we started the idea that it starts from within, right? It starts like if I am not doing justice to my own body, to my own self, to my own acceptance of this. Am I being satisfied? Am I being catered to? Am I loving myself? Am I catering to the love that I deserve to, and that love is not just up here, down here, but it's the whole, right? And maybe it might appear like, okay, cool, we'll do this, but then you're actually doing a disservice to yourself. Yeah, to a certain extent, you're actually hurting yourself because you're not expressing that this is not enough, right? And it's so powerful a word to say that more often than not, just saying, hey, this is not enough. Like it seems rude, like we've reached the stage where it feels like, oh my God, like you had to say that to my face. Like, how could
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
But
That's Tankespjärn. Ooh.
yeah, but right? I mean, like, that's
Yeah.
doing everyone a favor. That's doing
Yeah. It
everyone
is.
justice. That's saying, hey,
Yeah.
I love myself. I deserve everything that I love and everything that I
Right.
need. Right. And you deserve to know the truth. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
here it
Yeah.
is.
Here it is. Yeah. I have a friend who says tydlighet är snällhet in Swedish, which means clarity is kindness. So the clearer I am when I communicate, the kinder that is. And this is a
Yeah.
perfect example of that, right? And I've been observing myself around this thing because I have in the past I have had um I've been programmed, you know, into quite a lot of the time saying no when I'm a yes and saying yes
Mm,
when I'm a no, which I think
mm,
is not uncommon when it comes to women, maybe especially, but it's like, and I'm onto this and I'm, unlearning this thing and learning how to say yes when I'm a yes and no when I'm a no. And this thing is one of them. So and I'm very, very good at observing myself. That aspect of me, that meta me is constantly on, which is not, for me, that is a positive thing because I don't use it as a scapegoat to not also feel what I'm feeling. So I feel what I feel and I see myself feeling what I'm feeling, right? And I went for a meetup with one of the people that I match with on Badoo. And upon just seeing him, that little thing said, possible friend, right? And we had a good enough time. And then it just so happened that we met up a few days later at another place. And then we were chatting and then we had lunch. And it was like in the chatting, I could make myself think that there was more than, but this little meta me that said from the beginning, possible friend, that one was right, you know, because it's just not enough. It was not a match on like you say, it's like it needs to fire on all cylinders. That's
yeah.
what, that's the thing. Um, so then when I kind of realized that, and I remembered back to that first thing, it's like, oh yeah. So for me, there's this little gap where I can learn to honor that insight, that instinct, that um, intuition
Yeah.
earlier. So that's a process that I'm working on, I would say. Um,
I love, this whole, it's like it's so easy. Like my love, I've just been, if I look at it in three phases, the first phase, I was just obsessively, just driven by instinct, right? But it was baser instincts, right? I
mm,
didn't think of anything finer instincts. It was just a baser instinct, right? Like hustle, I need that, right? Like Hulk, see Hulk smash, right? Like I just need to get that into my veins. I need to get high. I just need to get high. I just need to get high. Like that was the only thing. It was just this overwhelming instinct. And then when I finally cleaned up and I was like, okay, now I got to get this act together. I'm just going to be like intellect, 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 right? Not going to let the instinct interrupt. It's not going to get me this time. Just going to go completely rational. I'm going to do things by the book. I'm going to follow process. I'm going to be disciplined and get things done. And I did that, right? And now I'm in this third phase where I'm just like, hey, I'm going to explore the instinct again, right? This time I'm going to explore the deeper levels, the subtler aspects of instinct, the finer aspects of instinct, which I missed out on, right? I was crude earlier, and I'm going to now dive into the finer aspects. I'm going to discover aspects and facets of myself, which I explored, but I missed registering. I missed being aware of it, right? I was just so awash with this load of energy that I didn't register what I was feeling. I was just numbed by the explosion of feeling that I'm constantly ex- exposing my body to through drugs, through other mood altering substances, etc. But now I'm just going to be like, so I'm constantly in the space where I'm trying to find, okay, how am I feeling? What am I feeling? What am I doing? What am I saying? What am I thinking? Right. And I keep trying to match what I think of as, you know, TSD, like, is my thought, is my speech, and is my deed in sync? Right. So if I think that I like this person, am I expressing myself honestly and saying, hey, I like you? Am I following it up with action by saying, by
Mhm.
maybe just making a little video, maybe drawing a little squiggle, right? And sending it to them, like, as an expression, as a tangible expression in action, right? Or am I just like thinking in my head, oh, I like this person, but I never say it and I never do anything to express it honestly. So like this is how I'm, constantly thinking, okay, how am I feeling? What's happening? What am I thinking? So it starts with the feeling, goes to the thinking, then to the speech, and then to actually something. Like and, I just love ratios, so I throw in another ratio here again. So it's like all the love I feel for someone, all the gratitude I feel for someone, like my heart could explode with that. My eyes could tear up with that amount of emotion I'm feeling. It amounts to, again, just 2%, right? Because all of that is still inside of me, right? When I say it out, like, oh, you are the most amazing person and I had the most amazing time. Like I bring it up to an 18%. So now it's thought plus speech. So now it's
Mhm.
2 plus
20.
18. So I got up
Mm.
to 20%, but it's still nowhere close to me, like a little kid, taking a piece of paper, squiggling a little drawing on it, and saying, hey, Helena, this is for you. I think you really look cool, right? Like a little child would do. Like, you see children, if they really like you, they will say, they will express something towards you. They gift you something. They gift you their toy. They gift you a leaf. It could be a dried leaf, which they pick off the ground and say, hey, thank you for being nice to me. This is for you, right? It could be as simple as that. But that gesture, that action, right? And I feel like that's how we can really build that whole relating and that, the whole relate aspect of it. Because all the thought, as much like, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, as much of good intentions as I have, it means nothing if I don't say it. And all that flowery, poetic expression, eloquent expression that I say with words, as magical as they may sound, still amount to very little on my scale because a
Yeah.
simple, ridiculous piece of, a Hallmark card would still do something more. Because like I said, it's physical, it's tangible. Maybe me sending, a dried leaf from here, which has a certain scent, which your subtler nose would
Yeah.
be aware of, like that would rank, you know,
Yeah.
up there.
Hi.
It fills up our space of interaction with affection in action.
I like that. I like that. You have a knack for like creating these nifty little tools or like measurements or like
Yeah,
here's the words, here's the fancy acronym or something, and then you know that's
yeah.
that's that's a knack. I could go into the fortune aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just so much easier for me to quantify. Like I didn't take the cognitive load of my head, especially because like, when I'm like someone like me who's like constantly like all over the place. I meet 100 people online a day and I'm just like, it's I'm just flitting all over the place. Right? I'm just like a hummingbird on crack. I'm not like one of those magnificent eagles who just flaps once and
Soar.
just like
Yeah.
soars
Yeah.
across, right? I'm just
Yeah.
one of those, like
Yeah.
constantly all over the place.
Yeah.
So I need something to remind me that, hey, you haven't been relating with this individual deep enough. You've just been scratching the surface of this. Because as a by by nature, I'm one of those flitty, frivolous individuals who just like dives in, connects, relates, and then fucks off, right? Like he's just like lost. Like and it's not by intent of hurt or harm, but it's just, it's just my
Just
predominant
is.
nature, right?
It just
But
is.
yeah, but that still is hurtful to others who are not aware that this is my nature, or even if they're aware, expect something more. So I realized that it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm just like this, or deal with it sort of a thing. I can find some sort of a common ground. I can say, hey, right, or just by using these little tricks and hacks and just making these things possible. I'm like, hey, I've been talking a bunch to this person, but have I been actually doing stuff, right? And this is really weird. I've been trying this all over the internet this whole last year. I've been sending people gifts, random people I meet on the internet. I'm just like, hey, do you mind sharing your address? I want to send you something. Something like, wait, what? Why do you need my address? What's happening here? Right? And someone else thinks, okay, this brown guy over here, he try to get into my country. Is he trying to sneak in? I'm just like, no, 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 wait. I wouldn't go into that. I'm like, I'm really happy that I am. And, but it's just like, and then when you say it's a gift, then there's even more suspicion. It's like, wait, what do you want from me?
Yeah, what do
Right?
you
There's
want
this
from
ulterior
me? Yeah.
motive. And but and it's not even that I'm trying to buy someone's love. Like a lot of people feel like, okay, are you just trying to win my affection on the internet through money? Like how crass is that? But I'm like, this is it. It's not the value of the gift, but it's to me, it's a completion of my cycle of my spark of affection for someone. If I don't take it through these three steps, if I just think, oh, you're such a nice person, and if I say you're such a nice person, and I could give you a nice, a testimonial on the internet, this person, shout out to the so and so person, like shout out, like shout out. That's not enough. It doesn't close the loop for me. It doesn't complete the circuit for me. I need to do something tangible. And I'm the kind of freak who would probably fly down to say hello, just give you a hug and fly the fuck back. Right. I'm totally down for that. But that's not likely to happen now, considering the situation. So that's why I would rather just, do something else to complete that loop and to close that loop. And and I feel like that's something that I really want to, part of the whole play thing that I'm doing is that gifting, gifting, gifting. Like I feel like that's one of the incredible ways we can start strengthening these connections, right? The same, like whether it's a my single network, whether it's a human network, whether it's a spiritual network, that genuine affection of gifting, it could just be, anything, right? Just anything, just gifting strengthens our connections like no amount of words and no amount of I just, have good vibes and good wishes for you is going to cut it.
It's interesting. We had in December of 2020, I have a very small Patreon community for Tankespjärn where we do monthly Zooms on a topic. So we do 90 minutes, and in December of 2020 we did a topic on gifting. I'll send you that doodle because I doodle when we do those. And it was an interesting topic to get into because there's a lot of norms around that. Like you say, what are you after? If you give me something, I have to reciprocate, yada, yada, yada. It's like, and if you kind of try to get past that, there is that genuineness in it that can just be, again, it's a lovely way of relating. You know, I'm so happy we connected. No, I'm so happy we started to relate yesterday. Uh, so that we are now in this relating, which will continue. Oh,
Looking forward.
yeah, I do too. This has been great fun.
Yeah.
I can just imagine the amount of snippets I will be able to get from this. From the first season is 25 plus 2 conversations. I've done the first 22 conversations. I had 430 snippets. It's like, oh my
Whoa.
God, I need to, this could be a full time job for sure. Just putting the wisdom, the little snippets of wisdom out there. But I have them, and I'm using them and having fun with them. But yeah, this has been really, really fun.
I love
Just
it. Thank you so much. I'm
thank
so
you.
happy. Like you said, I can't believe it's just been 24 hours. Just, the future's so bright. We got to wear shades.
That's the one. That's the one for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks. I will send you some dates for
Cool.
next conversation. Excellent.
And I'm going
So
to think of what gift I'm going to send you. All this talk, and if I don't send something, right, I'm going to think of something. And I'm not going to ask you. And oh, but there's another thing, right? This is something else that I like about gifting is actually the the process of creating that gift, of thinking of that gift, of selecting that gift is something that brings so much joy. And I've always wondered why we don't involve each other in it. So if I'm going to gift you something, why don't I involve you in it? Right. So I'll tell you what, once we jump off the call, I'm going to send you a bunch of my thoughts on what I would like to gift you. And you can figure out, reciprocate with what your ideas are of what you want as a gift. And then we'll figure out some sort of a way to make that happen.
excellent. Well, there's a cliffhanger for the people listening, right? To see where will we take this one.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you so much. See you
Uh,
soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Ciao.